but he has no idea. He's live on GMA right now. Dwayne, are you ready to change his life?
I am ready. Well, we are going to change his life. GMA and America, we're going to change this guy's life.
It was a cool evening at a diner, with everything going on as usual. But Dwayne Johnson stepped in, and then something unusual happened. It was an ordinary Wednesday evening. The small roadside diner buzzed softly with life. The smell of fresh coffee lingered in the air, while regulars chatted lazily over pie. The air was filled with warmth, the kind of comfort only small-town diners could offer. Nothing unusual ever happened here, but for the people inside, that was exactly why they kept coming back. Well, it is all about to change now. Maggie, the manager, sat in the corner booth, her eyes flicking between a stack of bills and her restless son Charlie. She was trying to focus on numbers that didn't seem to add up, but Charlie wasn't making it easy. He bounced on the seat, pretending his spoon was a rocket, zooming through the air. "Charlie, please," she said gently but firmly, reaching over to steady his hand. "I need to finish this." At just 7 years old, Charlie had the energy of a dozen kids. He tapped the table rhythmically, humming a tune Maggie didn't recognize. "Mom, look," he said suddenly, pointing to the sugar packets lined up like little soldiers. "They're in formation," Maggie managed a small smile. Charlie's imagination always amazed her, but tonight her mind was elsewhere. She rubbed her temples and looked out the window, wishing for just a little breathing room. Across the room, Sam stood behind the counter, polishing a coffee mug with a rag that had seen better days. His movements were slow, his back slightly hunched, but his face lit up as he listened to one of his regulars, Joe. Joe was a retired trucker who never missed a night at the diner. "I'm telling you, Sam," Joe said, his voice gravelly. "Back in the day, this place was packed. Lines out the door. People came from miles around for your chili and pies." Sam chuckled, shaking his head. "Those were the days," he said wistfully, "but times change. Highways got wider, gas stations got fancier. Folks don't stop like they used to." Joe clapped Sam on the shoulder. "Doesn't matter," he said. "You've still got the best pie in town." Sam smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. He glanced around the diner. It wasn't empty, but it wasn't thriving either. The neon sign outside buzzed faintly, a little dimmer than it used to be. Becky, the waitress, zipped between tables with the energy of someone who'd done this for years. Her warm smile and quick wit kept the place feeling alive, even on slow nights like this. She paused by Maggie's booth, giving Charlie a playful wink as she refilled their water glasses. "How's it going over here?" she asked. Maggie sighed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "We're managing," she said, forcing a smile. Rosa nodded knowingly. She had seen a lot of managing in her time at the diner. It was a quiet, ordinary night. Outside, the hum of passing cars on the highway added to the peaceful rhythm. No one could have guessed what was about to happen. Then, a large SUV pulled into the parking lot. The headlights pierced the mist, cutting through the stillness of the evening. It was a car you couldn't ignore, and the soft rumble of the engine made people glance out the window. Moments later, the door swung open with a jingle, and every head turned. A man ducked slightly as he entered, his broad shoulders barely fitting through the frame. His smile was easy, and his presence filled the room. Maggie froze, her pen hovering above her paper. Sam's jaw dropped. It was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The entire room went quiet. Forks paused mid-air, and conversations came to an abrupt halt. People froze, staring at him, trying to process what was happening. Dwayne stood there for a moment, his broad smile lighting up his face. He was dressed casually in jeans and a plain t-shirt, looking every bit the superstar but without any of the usual glam. His presence, though, was undeniable. He had that kind of energy that filled a room, even without saying a word. "Hello, good evening," Dwayne said, his voice warm and easygoing, as he gave a nod to the stunned patrons. There was no hint of arrogance in his tone, just a friendly, down-to-earth vibe. He paused, letting the surprise settle before adding with a sheepish grin, "Got sidetracked on my road trip, and I've been craving a slice of pie from a good diner. You know how it is." For a moment, it felt like the room might explode with excitement. Dwayne Johnson sat down at the counter, careful to pick a spot that didn't draw too much attention. However, everyone's eyes were on him now. Many could not believe their eyes. Some whispered to their neighbors to confirm his real identity. Others went online to check out his page and cross-check with his face. And it was true. They were at the same diner with Dwayne Johnson, and it felt like a dream. Now, the whispers could no longer be contained. But Dwayne didn't care much. He waved for the waitress, Becky, who came over smiling. When asked what he would love to get, he asked for the diner's specialty, their pies. He was trying his best to blend in, hoping to stay out of the spotlight for just a little while. As Ellie went to place the order, Dwayne's attention turned to the man sitting behind the counter, Sam, the owner of the diner. He was an older gentleman with a thick white beard and a plaid shirt. He looked like someone who had spent many years at this diner, soaking in the stories of the world. Dwayne gave him a friendly nod, and the man looked up, raising his eyebrows. "You new around here?" the man asked, his voice warm but curious. Dwayne grinned, deciding to strike up a conversation. "Not exactly," he said with a chuckle, "just passing through. Been craving some good diner pie, you know." The man laughed, his eyes lighting up. "Oh, you're in the right place. This old diner used to be the hottest spot in town back in the day. People came from miles around just to sit at this counter." Dwayne leaned in slightly, interested. "Really? Tell me more." Sam immediately launched into stories about the diner's heyday. He told Dwayne about how he got a recipe for the pie from his grandmother, moved to the town, and started the diner. He talked about how years ago the diner was packed every weekend, with locals and travelers alike, all gathering for a cup of coffee and a slice of pie. Sam's eyes glimmered with nostalgia as he spoke about the jukebox, playing classic tunes, and the line of regulars who always sat at the same booths. "You wouldn't believe the characters we had in here back then," Sam said, leaning back in his seat as if he were recalling the golden years of the diner. There was this guy, Nate. He came in every morning at 6 a.m. and ordered 2 eggs, bacon, and black coffee. Never said a word to anyone. But man, that guy could drink more coffee than anyone I've ever seen. Dwayne smiled, listening intently. He didn't just nod politely. He was genuinely interested, absorbing every detail. The way Sam spoke, the passion in his voice, made the diner's history come alive in a way Dwayne hadn't expected. It was clear that this place held more than just memories. It was part of the community, woven into the fabric of the town itself. As Sam continued with his stories, Dwayne felt like he was experiencing a piece of history, something far more valuable than any red carpet or movie premiere. It was the kind of connection that could only happen when you took the time to listen, really listen, to someone else's story. The coffee arrived and Dwayne took a sip, savoring the warmth. The pie came soon after, a perfect slice of apple pie, golden and flaky. Sam leaned over and gave him a wink. "Best pie in town. Trust me." Dwayne laughed. "I'm already starting to believe you." As Dwayne dug into his pie, he noticed a young boy hesitating near the counter. The boy was holding something small in his hands, looking unsure. Dwayne glanced over, curious. The boy's eyes widened when he realized Dwayne was looking at him, and he took a deep breath before slowly walking over to him. Dwayne smiled warmly. "Hey there, buddy. What's up?" The boy, who looked about 7 or 8, was Charlie. He is a huge fan of Dwayne Johnson and has been very excited as well as scared to meet him since Dwayne entered the finer. Eventually, with his mom's encouragement, he moved closer to Dwayne and shyly held up a small action figure of one of Dwayne's movie characters. His voice barely rose above a whisper. Can you sign this? It's you, from the movie." Dwayne's heart warmed. He knelt at the boy's level, making sure to keep things friendly and relaxed. "Well, hey, I think I know exactly who this guy is." He looked at the action figure closely, smiling at the little details. "You know," he continued with a playful tone, "I've been looking for someone to play my younger self in the next movie. Maybe you're the guy for the job." The boy's eyes lit up with excitement, and he nodded vigorously, his shyness forgotten. "Really? You think so?" "Absolutely," Dwayne said, giving him a wink. "You've got the look, kid." Dwayne carefully signed the action figure, adding a small note that said, "To Charlie, keep being awesome." He handed it back to the boy, who was grinning from ear to ear. Charlie clutched the figure tightly to his chest. "Thanks. This is the best day ever." Dwayne stood up, giving him a thumbs up. "Anytime, champ. Now go show that figure to all your friends." As Charlie dashed back to his mom, still beaming with happiness, Dwayne couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. It was a small moment, but it meant the world to the boy. And for Dwayne, it was a reminder of the simple joy that came from connecting with others, no matter how big or small the interaction. The diner was buzzing with its usual evening hum, the clink of silverware, and the soft chatter of locals filling the air. Dwayne Johnson, still trying to blend in, sat at the counter with his coffee and pie. As Dwayne finished his po, he sat back and relaxed. He wasn't expecting to do anything special that night, just enjoying a quiet break during his road trip. But then he noticed something. What was that? Becky, the waitress, was juggling too many plates. Her arms were full and she looked a bit frazzled, trying to get food to the tables while making sure everyone was happy. She was moving fast, a little overwhelmed by the dinner rush. Dwayne didn't hesitate. He set his pie down, stood up, and walked over to her. "Need a hand?" he asked, a grin spreading across his face. Becky looked at him, clearly surprised. "You sure? I'm good, thanks." However, Dwayne wasn't having any of it. "You look like you could use a break. Let me help." He grabbed a couple of plates, giving Becky a quick wink. "I got this," he said, his deep voice carrying a sense of calm. As he carried the dishes to the tables, he waved at a few regulars and exchanged a few friendly words with the customers, just like he worked there. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was enough to ease Ellie's load. When he dropped the plates off, he turned to Sam, the older man sitting at the counter. Sam was tinkering with the kitchen door, the hinge squeaking as it swung open and shut. "Hey, need help with that?" Dwayne asked, pointing at the door. Sam squinted at him, then laughed. "Well, if you can fix it, I'd be mighty impressed, son." Immediately, Dwayne crouched down, examining the hinge with the focus of a pro. "My mom used to make me fix stuff around the house when I was growing up," he explained, his tone light but proud. "She always said, if you're going to break it, you better know how to fix it." Sam chuckled. "That sounds like good advice." With a couple of quick adjustments, Dwayne tightened the hinge, making the door swing smoothly again. Sam gave him a nod of approval, clearly impressed. "You sure you're not a handyman on the side, kid?" he joked. Dwayne smiled. "Not yet. But you never know." He stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Always happy to help out where I can." Becky came back to the counter, shaking her head with a grin. "I can't believe you just jumped in like that. You're a natural." Dwayne laughed, shrugging. "Just paying it forward." Dwayne was having a great time, talking to the patrons, and even helping out with the little things. But as the evening wore on, he had an idea. A small, quiet act of kindness, one that would make the night unforgettable for everyone. He leaned over to Becky, who was taking a breather at the counter. "Hey," he said quietly, "bring me the checks for everyone here. I've got it covered." Ellie blinked, unsure if she'd heard him right. "What do you mean?" "I'm paying for everyone's meals tonight," Dwayne said with a smile. "Just tell them it's on me." "That's shocking, right?" Becky was surprised too. "Are you serious?" Dwayne nodded, his grin never wavering. "Yeah, it's just a little something to make their night special, and then maybe they'll pay it forward someday." Becky quickly gathered the checks and, with a little hesitation, announced to the diner, Folks, just so you know, your meals have been covered tonight. Courtesy of him." She pointed to Dwayne with a grin. The room went silent for a second, and then everyone started looking around, trying to figure out what was going on. They all looked at Dwayne, who gave them a quick nod. A few people muttered, "No way," while others whispered excitedly. But Dwayne just stood there watching them, his smile warm and genuine. When one of the regulars asked, "Why do this?" Dwayne just shrugged and said, "Just sharing love. Next time, do something kind for someone else." It wasn't about the money. It was about spreading positivity. He wanted to leave behind something more than just a good memory for himself. He wanted the diner to feel a little brighter that night, and for everyone to walk out feeling a little lighter. The night continued, and Dwayne kept the mood upbeat, chatting with the regulars and sharing stories about his life. He wasn't acting like a celebrity. He was just a guy who happened to be well known, but he didn't let that get in the way of making real connections with people. Soon, he noticed someone by his side. Maggie wanted to thank him for Charlie's autograph and the kind words. But she had a tired look in her eyes, and Dwayne could see that she was going through something. He had been around enough people to recognize that look of struggle. Guess what he did? With a gentle tone, he asked, "How's everything going? You okay?" Maggie hesitated, then sighed. "It's been tough. I'm a single mom. My son, Charlie, he's amazing, but sometimes it feels like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders." Dwayne nodded, understanding her struggle. "I hear you. It's never easy, but you're stronger than you think, Maggie, honestly. You've got more power inside you than you realize." She looked at him, surprised by his kindness. "You think so?" Dwayne smiled softly, his tone warm and reassuring. "I know so. Charlie's lucky to have you, and he'll see that when he's older. You're doing great, even when it doesn't feel like it." Maggie smiled, a little tear in her eye. She hadn't expected this conversation with a stranger, especially not from someone like Dwayne, but his words had hit home, and she felt a little more hopeful. She wasn't alone in this. For the rest of the evening, Dwayne shared stories about his own struggles, how he grew up with little, how he overcame obstacles, and how he always tried to stay positive even when life got hard. It was real talk, not the kind of scripted stuff you might hear in interviews. He was giving people more than just a smile or a photo. He was sharing pieces of his heart. The diner felt different now. People were smiling more and talking more openly, and the energy had shifted. It was as if Dwayne's words had sparked something inside everyone. His positivity was contagious. By the end of the evening, the diner had become a place of quiet excitement. Patrons were discreetly snapping photos of Dwayne as he chatted and laughed with people. He didn't mind one bit. He even posed for a few quick selfies when asked, always with that big, friendly grin of his. But before he left, he made one final gesture. Dwayne grabbed a piece of chalk and wrote a quick note on the diner's chalkboard, the one that hung near the front door where everyone could see. It was a simple message, but it would be there for as long as the diner stood. He wrote, "The best pie in town. Thanks for the hospitality. Dwayne Johnson." With that, he stood back, admiring the note before taking a step back to the counter. "Hope that sticks around for a while," he said with a wink. The customers took pictures of it, some even joking that they'd never wash that chalkboard again. Dwayne had become a part of their story, and it felt special, like a memory they could always look back on. As the night drew to a close, Dwayne stood up and made his way to the door. He waved goodbye to everyone in the diner, his smile wide and genuine. He took a moment to shake Sam's hand, the older man who had shared so many stories. "Thanks for the memories, Sam," Dwayne said, giving him a firm handshake. "If I'm ever in the area again, I'll stop by." He then turned to Charlie, the boy who had been so excited earlier about the action figure. "Keep being awesome, kid," Dwayne said, giving him a thumbs up. As Dwayne walked to the door, he pulled out his wallet and handed Becky an extra tip. "This is for you and Sam," he said quietly. "Make sure you keep this place running." Becky smiled, grateful for his generosity, but even more grateful for his kindness. "Thanks, Dwayne. You really made tonight special." Dwayne climbed into his SUV, and as he started the engine, he glanced back at the diner. Through the misty night, he saw the patrons standing outside as they waved goodbye to him. They had actually met a star, and he had made their night brighter by his unexpected visit. They had just experienced something extraordinary, something they'd always remember. The next day, word about Dwayne's visit spread through town like wildfire. People were talking about it on social media, sharing stories about how a celebrity had stepped into their small-town diner and made their night unforgettable. But for the people who were there, it wasn't just the celebrity that made the night special. It was the kindness, the little things, the genuine connections. Charlie couldn't stop talking about how Dwayne had called him a future star. "He really thinks I can do it," Charlie would tell his friends, his face beaming with pride. Maggie, his mom, found herself thinking back to Dwayne's words. She felt stronger now, more capable of handling the challenges that came with raising her son on her own. That conversation had given her a renewed sense of hope. Sam, too, felt a surge of energy. He proudly framed the signed chalkboard note that Dwayne had left behind. It wasn't just a memento. It was a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness could make a difference. The diner felt more alive than ever, and Sam was more determined than ever to keep it running. Dwayne's visit to that small diner wasn't just about a celebrity making an appearance. It was about how small acts of kindness could ripple through a community. And for Dwayne, it wasn't just about giving back. It was about remembering the power of small moments. Sometimes, the most unexpected moments can have the biggest impact. And that night he showed everyone that a little kindness could brighten even the most ordinary of places.